Sure. Well, I'm Deborah Callahan. I'm from Rockford, Illinois. We're so happy you could join us tonight for our Knowledge is Power Hour. This is a place to help people with their overall health, share insights as we grow together, and use our gifts and our talents to make a difference in this world, especially in these crazy times, and just to be with other positive people. Liz and Adrian and I truly feel that we're creating a movement that can impact many lives. And each week we would love it if we are encouraging you to invite others to share in this powerful health group with us. A little bit about me. I've been helping people restore and optimize their health for over 30 years. My degrees are in nutrition and dietetics, exercise physiology, and cardiac rehabilitation. I've had the privilege of working with some of the top medical minds in the world who believe, as I believe, and that's that the body has the ability to heal itself when given the proper nutrients and tools. My passion is definitely servant-driven. I love helping people and being able to share what I've learned to help people transform, or those who want to join in this health mission. So this truly feeds my soul, and I'm so happy to be with you tonight. And so now I would like to introduce you to my friend and my health and business partner, Liz Geeslin.
Great. Thank you, Deb, for that. And ladies, I'm just so privileged to be here. I have sort of morphed into this holistic world through first training horses professionally for 35 years and then morphing into a personal chef where I really did learn on the job how to help people regain their health through better nutrition. And then by just myself becoming better educated and actually over the last several years, learning more about how we have to be so in charge of our health. And it's wonderful when you can end up surrounding yourself with people that empower you and that you can learn from. And that is what this mission here is. And just excited to do this, each week, doing it every week. We're going to go on a summer schedule from here moving forward. But this has been very, very enlightening for me. And like I said the last time, this is like night school for me, for a girl that didn't go to college. So I just love being around people that are anxious about learning and empowering each other. So I am thrilled to introduce Adrian, my business partner and dear friend and confidant and girlfriend. Please
coffee talk.
Yeah, coffee talk, right.
Thanks, Liz. So most of you know me, Adrienne Gerard. I'm a nurse with a master's in holistic nutrition. I've been a health coach and in health care for over 30 years or more. And my passion is helping people rediscover their optimal health using as natural means as possible. And it's my privilege tonight to be able to introduce our guest speaker. Our guest speaker and I met on LinkedIn, and we've become friends and colleagues, and she's been to many of our sessions already and has added lots of value to our discussion. So who am I talking about? It's Teresa Palmer, and because her credentials are so great, I have to use a cheat sheet. Okay. So Teresa is the 2019 International Association of Top Professional Nurse Practitioners of the Year and a 2020 Empowered Woman of the Year. Wow. Teresa is, see, I told you. Yeah. She's a certified nurse practitioner in holistic cardiology. She's also trained in functional medicine and is a certified yoga therapist and meditation. Teresa's mission is to empower individuals to partner in their healthcare by giving them the knowledge and the tools needed to create a space of well-being. Teresa's journey of holistic health and healing began in 2000 during a medical mission in Romania, and I hope she'll share some of that with us. So please join me in welcoming Teresa to our group.
Wonderful.
Wow.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Adrienne, for that wonderful introduction. And I will share some things about Romania because that's where it all kind of started for me. My whole career has been in cardiology. And when I say integrative cardiology, that's just been since the year 2000, since I went to Romania. Prior to that, I was a quote unquote medicalist And I thought that all our interventions and all our things were really the way to go. And I was probably quite arrogant. And I had the opportunity to go to Romania to help set up a clinic in a very rural part of Romania. And there I learned so many different things. I learned that good health and well-being is not just a matter of any interventions or taking medications or what can be done. It's more, or just a label. It's really how people conduct their whole life is really their health and well-being. And what I learned was the medical clinic was right near an orphanage. And every day I had to walk across the courtyard to get to the clinic to see patients. And as I would walk, I would hear this song in Romanian. All these children would gather before school in the morning and they would sing this song. And at the end of the song, they would place their hands on their heart. So I had asked one of the translators, I said, I keep hearing this song. I've been hearing it for almost a week and I'm really curious. And I was told it was a mantra for good health. And what it is very simple. They were repeating, every cell in my body is happy. Every cell in my body is happy. Every cell in my body is happy because my heart, I have peace and joy. And this was their mantra. And it was the mantra throughout the whole country. And I later learned about 15 years later that it's also a Christian children's religious song, which I did not know at the time. So coupled with that, I was on my own journey of spirituality. I had just begun to study yoga. I was actually, my friend and I were the last private students of Sri Dharma Mitra in New York. And I was beginning to study with Deepak Chopra to do some meditation training. And prior to that, I had worked with Mehmet Oz before he became the famous Mehmet Oz. And we had done a few off-the-cuff research studies with the hospital with a partner in Columbia, and it was St. Michael's Medical Center at the time in New Jersey, on open heart massages, and if people did better with open heart surgery, if they were anti-stressed with meditation and music the night before they had surgery. And yes, they were. It was very successful. It was never published. It was just kind of off the cuff. So that was my introduction to what would be integrative cardiology. And what I'm going to talk about tonight is living from your heart and how we can live from our heart, how it benefits our health and our well-being. And in ancient traditions, and in some of the spiritual traditions and some of the religious traditions, the heart is the seat of the soul. It's also your chi, your life force. It's the breath of life. It's the God within you, the universe within you, the spirit, whatever you believe. What it's telling us is that the power for our compassion, our kindness, to be interconnected to the entire world, all beings in the world, stems from our heart. So our heart is so much more than a pump. And the first question I would like to ask people is, how many of you believe that we think with our heart, or do we think with our brain? How many people believe we think with our brain? Okay, how many believe we think with our heart? Okay. Majority rules. We do think with our heart. And the reason is, when you think with your heart, you process emotions. And all our feelings, sometimes you'll hear scientists or different people say, feelings aren't important. They just want the facts. Well, feelings are very important, and emotions, because that's what guides our life. So when you live from your heart, you allow your heart to process the emotions. And the wonderful thing about the heart is it's governed by the vagus nerve. And that's a nerve that runs actually from the stomach all the way up to the brain. And it governs the parasympathetic nervous system, which turns off the stress hormones. And that's very important because we live with a lot of stress. We're almost in our own PSTD, a post-traumatic stress syndrome that we're just so used to being stressed we don't really realize it's the way of life. And the problem with thinking with the brain is the brain just has programmed responses. It just goes by how you felt before. So it's like a computer. So if chocolate ice cream made you happy, your brain remembers that. And if you hold up a cone of chocolate ice cream, your brain just remembers that you should be happy. It doesn't have any feelings or any emotion associated with that. It's just like a computer. It says, I am happy. And that's fine. But what happens when other things set in, things that make you stressful, okay? And that's the problem with the brain, is it's more geared towards negative thinking, a negative state, and it's geared more towards survival. So it's great if somebody's after you or you're being robbed or somebody's following you. You need your brain because you need that quick thinking in order to get away out of the situation. And that's your fight or flight. And that does, when you're in true danger, there's nothing like fight or flight. You know, it shunts blood from the stomach, it gives blood to the brain, it sends blood to your extremities to help you run. And it shuts off all the other organs in your body. So you don't digest food, you don't assimilate anything, you don't get rid of waste products. It's simply a survival method. And that's fine if you need to be in survival, but we've kind of gotten used to survival. And that's why it's important for us to live more from our heart, because the vagus nerve actually turns off the parasympathetic nervous system. And the other great thing about that is it's the feel-good hormones. Like when people are running, they get the feel-good hormones of the dopamine, of the oxytocin. The heart and those hormones connect people to each other. So they make you, over the long run, a little bit kinder, a little bit gentler. And what the heart also does is, the serotonin resides in the stomach, and that's where it's produced, but it has to get to the brain in order to work. So the vagus nerve is also, and the parasympathetic nervous system is responsible for taking serotonin out of the gut where it resides and bringing it up to the brain where it actually does its good. And, you know, if anybody's ever taken antidepressants give serotonin to the brain. Most of the antidepressants now have serotonin. There's serotonin uptake. So they actually push that serotonin up to the brain, but you could do it naturally through the vagus nerve. The other thing about the heart is that the heart secretes a substance, and it's called the atrial natriuretic peptide, and it's ANP for short, and this is called the balance hormone. So if any of you are familiar with heart math, and they talk about the heart cohesiveness and what's the other word I'm looking for, the heart, to get into synchronicity with the blood pressure and with the breathing, okay? That's what this balance hormone does. So when you're relaxed and you're not stressed and you secrete more of this hormone, this ATP. And when you secrete that, it affects the smooth muscle of the heart. And the heart is an electrical conduction system. So when it affects the smooth muscle, you're less likely to get cardiac arrhythmias. And there's all types of cardiac arrhythmias. Some are caused by anxiety, some are caused by the function, kind of like a short circuit in the heart. So the more of this balance hormone that you could secrete, the less your chances are of getting an arrhythmia, because it's affecting the smooth muscle, which overlies the conduction system, and it's balancing it out. It also lowers heart rate. It also makes the heart rate to beat like a certain rhythm. So maybe maybe your natural heart rhythm is 70 beats per minute. The balance hormone tries to keep it at 70 beats per minute, and that doesn't tax the heart as much, because as we get older, our muscles wear out. And one of the muscles that starts to wear out in the 80s and 90s is the heart. And that's where you see congestive heart failure. When people have congestive heart failure, it could be acute, but it's more of a chronic. And that's just because the muscle of the heart can't pump as efficiently for 90 or 100, maybe 80 some years. It starts to wear down. So again, if you can keep your heart rate very steady, you don't tax your heart as much beating. And I hope that makes sense to everybody. It also helps with blood pressure, and it helps with breathing. It coordinates your breath, the inhalation and exhalation, which we most of the time don't think about at all, with the heart rate and with the heartbeat and the blood pressure. So these are the things it does. One of the great things about breathing is if you breathe intentionally, and by that I just mean inhaling and exhaling and being aware of it, you secrete this hormone also. It helps the heart secrete this hormone. So if by chance you're stressed out and your heart's not doing it, if you take a deep breath and just inhale to the count of 4, hold the breath to the count of 4, and exhale, again, you're secreting this hormone which shuts off again the autonomic nervous system, the sympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for our stress. And we know that stress accounts for 70, 80% of illness. And you may be surprised at that, but it's really true. We don't wake up diabetic. We don't wake up with high blood pressure one day. These are all processes that take years and years. It could be 20 years, 30 years in the making. And it's all due, most of it is due to stress. Because when we're stressed, we secrete cortisol, and then we can't secrete cortisol anymore, which has the same detrimental effects on the body. It raises blood sugar, it raises blood pressure, it affects the kidneys, it affects the adrenal glands, it eventually affects the thyroid, it affects the pituitary gland, and before you know it, you have a thyroid disorder, you're hypertensive, you're diabetic. And you know, all this happens again over a period of time, and it happens through stress. So if you could learn to be more aware and live from your heart, you're getting rid of all these things. You're doing yourself a huge favor. You're not going to see results overnight. It's not like, okay, today I'm going to start to live from my heart, and tomorrow I'm going to be fine. And that's one of the hardest things for me is to teach patients that this is a process. It's something that occurs over a period of time, and it's never too late to start in your life. You could start at any point in your life. The younger, the better. But anybody can do it. And you know, the other thing is, I'm going to talk, you may not know about chakras, but chakras are these spinning wheels of energy, and they run up the spine. And they're all important, but the ones I consider most important are the solar plexus, which is the stomach, the heart, and the throat are really the important ones. And when you live from your heart and you start to live more peacefully, and you live through the parasympathetic nervous system, which is peace, joy, compassion, kindness, all the things that don't stress us out, what happens is your personal power, the power that we have within us, resides in our solar plexus. It resides in that third chakra. And in order to really get activated and to be able to speak your truth, to stand in your truth, to really know who you are and what you want, and to be able to say, and to, especially with health, to kind of partner in your health care and say what you would like to have done and what you feel is necessary, those chakras have to be activated. And that's another thing that the vagus nerve does. So the parasympathetic nervous system, that vagus nerve that connects this, acts as a bridge. And it acts as a bridge between the stomach, here's my personal power, my heart, where I'm really feeling that personal power and I'm getting self-confident. And I know what I want. I know what I want to say to people, and I know how I want to express my heart. And then the throat chakra, which gives you then the ability to speak your truth. And this is, you know, if anybody has any questions, just stop me. If this is getting to be too much for you, just stop me. And I'll answer any questions. But that's how people get empowered to take care of their health and their well-being. Is, they live from their heart. They produce more peace, more joy, more compassion. You have less worry because you're not thinking with your brain so much. And again, the brain wants all that negative stuff, and it loves to hear that we're in trouble. Don't ask me why, that's just the way it is. But if there's another thing I'd like to touch on if I have time, and that's meditation. I don't know how many of you are familiar with meditation. Meditation simply means sitting quietly. That's all it is. You don't have to do anything fancy. You just sit quietly and concentrate on your breathing, your inhalation and your exhalation. And what meditation does is, over time, and it's about, if you could do meditation for about 2 to 3 weeks straight, for about 10 to 15 minutes each day, it starts to activate higher parts of our brain. Our primitive brain is the part that says fight or flight, survival for me at any cost. It's the me part of the brain. Once you start to access the higher intelligent part of the brain, you access the compassion center, the kindness center, the center where it connects you more to other people. So you go from me to we. And we is where we really need to be in life, because we are all interdependent on each other. That's just the way we're built. And that's the way we're made. And one more thing about the heart that I didn't mention is the heart is the greatest electrical field. It's the strongest. And it goes out about 6 feet around us. So that's why your emotions, my emotions, everybody's emotions affects everybody else. So if you're around people that are negative, you don't feel that good. You start to feel negative. In the crowd, it becomes the mentality of the crowd without even realizing it. If one person says, I hate this, and there's 20 people sitting there, all of a sudden they don't even know why they're hating it. They just start to hate it because you're feeling the emotions and you're feeling that vibration from the person's heart and their emotions to other people. And it's been said, and I've seen it work, where people have got together in very large groups, and they've had the intention of world peace and being positive. And if there was fighting, if there were wars going on throughout the world, for that time, that 10 or 15 minutes that these group of people, they had like International Peace Day, International Meditation Day. There was no violence in the world. There were no robberies. There was nothing, because that vibration carries. And it may be difficult to understand, and it may sound a little bit out there, but it is very real. What we feel connects to other people. We keep it going. And the more that we could take care of ourselves, the more we could be compassionate, kind, which also boosts our immunity, because the heart is associated with the thymus gland, and the thymus gland has to do with our immunity. And most of the time in adults, it's not active. It's active up to about age 12, and then it just seems to sit there. But what scientists have found is that the people that are more active from their heart center and more active with the vagus nerve, actually their thymus gland starts to grow and they have better immunity. And we know that immunity is a big part of fighting off illness and disease, viruses, infections, almost anything. So that's another reason that if we live and reside more in our heart, that we get the benefit of good health. We're not stressed. We're more at ease with ourselves. And it is true, every cell in our body does become happy, because the body knows how to take care of itself. And I'm going to go out on a limb a little bit here, but we as human beings tend to screw up ourselves. We tend to step in and do things that knowingly or unknowingly we sabotage. Most of the time we sabotage ourselves. And that could be with emotions. Sometimes it's with our health, getting stressed out over things, and either not realizing it or saying that's the way I am. And I have patients that have come to me and said, well, I'm a type A, that's just the way I am. Well, you can change, but if they're not open to it, nothing's going to happen. And sadly enough, those are the people that also have a lot of heart problems, have had heart attacks. Because stress induces inflammation. Inflammation affects the coronary arteries. You could have all the cholesterol in the world in your arteries. If it doesn't go anyplace, it doesn't mean anything. It has to have an event, and that event is inflammation. So when inflammation occurs, the white blood cells in the body go to fight it. And when they attack the inflammation, unfortunately, it's like scrubbing bubbles. It causes a lot of disruption. That plaque breaks free, blocks the coronary artery, and you have a heart attack. So that's the event of how to get a heart attack and how to prevent a heart attack. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask. Do we have time to do a little bit of breathing, or are we out of time?
You know what? I think, Teresa, if it's okay, I think that you've touched on so many things here that I think we can get some really good discussion.
Okay.
This was fantastic. And it is, and I was just resonating myself when you, especially that last thing that you touched on, because I'm such a firm believer in what you think about comes about. And when you're just talking about, coming from the heart, and I'm just using this little group as an example. When you set yourself up in an environment, wherever you are, that is helping to nourish your soul and your being, you just touched on that beautifully, which is what this is all like, a little part of that. And I really appreciate also, everything that you were saying about that, and then having that, I don't know, it's not bravery, but where you have to be proactive about our health and making it a point. You can't, just like you said, well, that's just how I am. And I hear people say that all the time. And then when you're talking about the data driven, my father's such the engineer. It's like, I don't want to try anything unless there's data. It's like, whatever. Sorry for you losing out, but it's just, he chooses to be that way. And so anyway, so everybody can unmute themselves if they want. I appreciated that everybody was nice and muted and quiet, but let's give Teresa some feedback and have conversation. Teresa, really appreciate that, because it just so resonates the whole purpose of what I think we as a group here are doing, and how we are in charge of our own health. We are in charge of our own health.
I mean, things happen, unfortunately.
Yes.
You can't walk out your door tomorrow. You could get hit by, a tree could fall on you. And, that's not your fault.
No.
Maybe it's just meant to be, but about 70 to 80% of our health, we are in charge of. The other
right.
Luck of the draw. There's not too much you can do.
Right. Well, and down to, like, for me, I just had a very frightening experience with my husband with some medication that he was given by a doctor. I never paid attention to the meds that Joe's on. He does his thing, whatever. And he came in a couple of weeks ago and he said, honey, I want you to look at this piece of paper. He said two of the pharmacists came out at Costco and said, Joe, do you have any idea the ramifications of the side effects of this drug? And I said, well, what is it? And so I Google it and I said, what did you want it for? And it says for arthritis. And I thought, he probably complained to the doctor sometime, oh, my back hurts. Oh, we'll give you this drug. Never should have been prescribed to anybody that was on a blood thinner, and he's on Coumadin.
Oh.
And who knows how long the combination. So it's like, okay, we're making that primary care. So it scared me to death. And the thing that's interesting is they dump those pills down the disposal, is now looking at how his whole persona now being on Armadex's products, everything. It's like I have my husband back. He's like giving me those goofy little jokes he used to do. And I thought he was like in this deep depression. It was awful. It was, I was like, it was terrible. And it was just like, so I'm just like, we're just active and going, we are dealing with this. He's going to a primary care now that's an osteopath. we are just taking more control over exactly what is going on.
Yeah, I tell all my patients, you need to know what you're taking, why you're taking. And, I deal with an older, it's a cardiology. And some of our patients, we have patients anywhere from 30 some years old all the way up to about 100. And some people will complain that they're dizzy, or I had somebody with very low blood pressure. And, I said, what medications do you take? She said, I don't know. She my daughter puts them out. And I said, well, when you get home, have your daughter call. Well, she was on 3 blood pressure medications that had been prescribed by 3 doctors. And she was a 92-year-old woman. And the daughter didn't know how long she was taking these. She said, well, she goes to the doctor, she comes home with these. Goes to the pharmacy, delivers them. And she said, my job is to put the pills in the pack for my mother so she knows what to take. And, it's tough because people, they trust healthcare providers so much.
Yeah.
We don't know things we do. I mean, I've had a lot of training, and I've got a master's degree. I've got 6 years of an education. It actually took me 9 years because I was doing it so slowly. But I've got a good education. I know what I'm doing. I've been doing it for 30 years. And yes, to a certain extent, you should trust me. But I'll be honest with you, they don't call it practicing medicine for nothing.
Thank you.
I'm just going to bring up COVID because I think it's the best example of how mistakes were made in the beginning by healthcare professionals because we just don't know.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. And, if you're dealing with stocks or you're dealing with something, if you make a mistake, okay, people may lose some money, or maybe, car's dangerous if somebody makes a mistake on that. But I mean, certain things, if people make a mistake or they ring up the wrong grocery stuff, it's not detrimental to people, and it can kill them. But when you're dealing with people's lives, it can kill them. And, if you place so much trust that you don't question anything, or you don't ask, well, why am I taking that medication?
Right.
I need it. Is there something else that maybe would work? And it's tough because I believe in more natural things. And I had a GI problem. They thought I had 3 Barrett's, which turned out I didn't. But the GI doctor, the first one, didn't want to listen to me because he kept telling me about the medication. And I said, I understand that. I said, I could tell you all about the medication. I said, I want to know if there's anything more natural that I could take that would be effective, or what can I do besides this?
Right.
And he basically didn't want to be bothered with me. He said, take the dextrose. And that was his response, was either do what I say or don't do it.
Right. Okay, Lisa, you have something, hon?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, you mentioned if you can do 10 to 15 minutes a day of meditation for like 2 to 3 weeks, you might be able to make some headway. How do you get out of your own head? How do you sit there? I mean, if you're not going to meditate and listen to something that's, I'm going to be doing my checklist, I'm going to be doing my to-do. I mean, how do I just, how do I get myself to be quiet?
Okay, it's not a matter of being quiet. We're human beings, we think. And that's just the way it is, our mind works. You just don't dwell on it. So if something comes in your mind, like you're sitting there quietly, I usually recommend to people first thing in the morning and last thing at night. So first thing in the morning, when you get out of bed, I would, meditation. It sets the tone for the day. If something comes in your mind, I have to go to work, what time is it? You simply say, thank you for coming, thoughts, and that's it. And you just don't dwell on it, because we're the ones that give those thoughts power because we dwell on them. Thoughts in and of themselves will come and go. So if something's going through your mind, it's the same thing. If you're afraid of something, if you keep saying, I'm afraid of something, I'm afraid of something, you give it power. If you say, okay, I understand there's something to be afraid of, now you're taking control of it. So take control of your meditation. You say, okay, thank you for coming.
Right.
And you just don't, if it comes back, concentrate on your breathing, and eventually it'll go away. It takes time. I'm not saying it's easy, but the more you can control even your meditation and your mind, the more you feel more in control of everything.
Okay.
Somebody else had a question?
Okay, Deb?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Teresa, thank you very much. Could you do us a favor and run through a typical day for you and how you calm yourself down and work on your chakras and all that?
Sure. My typical day is I try to get 8 hours of sleep a night. My body seems to want 7, but I've been doing 8. I always wake up an hour before, which is the 7th hour. And then I try to go back to sleep where I just lay there and do nothing. Because I want to get that 8 hours, because I think it's important to give your body that amount of rest. And especially since there's more stress to everybody in the world now, that I just want that 8 hours. So I sleep, I go to bed at a regular time. It's usually 10 o'clock, 10:30, wake up at the same time. It's important to have a routine, whether you're working, retired, on furlough, whatever, it's important to have that routine. The first thing I do is I do my meditation. So before I take a shower or anything, I sit quietly. And in the morning, I do a more formal meditation that was given to me by my teacher, Sri Dharma Mitra. So I do a more formal, he had given me a mantra 20 years ago. So I do my meditation with the mantra. And I do that for at least 10 minutes. Some days I do 15, some days I do 10. And then I take a shower, I have breakfast, and I do intentional breathing. So if I get stuck in traffic or something is going on, I make sure that I'm conscious of how I'm breathing. So I take a deep breath, I hold it, and I let it out, and that calms me down. When I see patients, sometimes in between patients, and this is true especially over the past few months, I try to meet people where they're at with whatever is going on. But, you know, sometimes I get I hate to say it, but sometimes I do get aggravated. And sometimes I feel like there's, you know, you take on other people's energy. So sometimes I'll leave the room, and a very simple clearing energy process is that you just sit down, or if you're standing, you could stand, and you just close your eyes and envision a white light. And that white light is above your head, and it washes down you. And as it washes down you, it's eliminating any negative energy, and it's protecting you. So it's also good if you feel fearful about anything or anxious about anything, it's a great way to get that protection. And it's proven, I learned it from Andre Felter, from energy medicine. I do it twice a month with him. I've been doing it, this is my 2nd year. And he recommends that energy clearing. So some days in between patients, I have to clear energy.
Sure.
When I leave work, I leave work. I don't think about it. That's it. Once I'm out the door, that's it for the day as far as work. When I get home, what I try to do is I like incense and I like candles. So I either burn a candle or I burn incense, and I kind of take stock of the day. What did I do that was right? What could I have improved on? You know, is there any way that maybe I could have been nicer to somebody? Maybe, you know, I could have done something for anything, or maybe, you know, I didn't have to cut somebody off in traffic. Maybe it wasn't that important. So just little things like that. And then I relax, have wine, dinner. And then before I go to bed, I do some yoga. I forgot, I do yoga also in the morning. I do a little yoga practice, and I do some standing and some sitting postures. And then I do a nightly meditation. And with the nightly meditation, I just sit quietly. And whatever comes in my mind, fine, it comes in my mind, I just let it go. And that's how I prepare myself for sleep. And then I just go to sleep. But that's like my average day. I try to be aware of my breathing during the day. And, you know, especially if it's a little tense or there's a lot going on. And I try to calm myself down as much as possible. It really does work if you're more calm and other people aren't, because in our office, we've had a lot of emotions going on over the past few months, a lot. It's really run the gambit. And if I'm more stabilized, I sort of become the stabilizing force, because if I'm more anchored, then everybody else in the office and even the patients seem to be more anchored. So it kind of cuts through a lot of the tension. So, it's good to be that anchoring person, that if you could take on that role and you're comfortable with it, it's a good role, because you kind of set the stage for how the other people react. So,
Right.
I think that that's so important too, that, improving our awareness of how our bodies are responding to things in our daily life. I've noticed I hold my breath a lot,
Me too. I was just going to ask about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
and that's a stress response. That's something that is very primitive. That, holding the breath was, I don't know exactly what it relates to, but it's like a mechanism for stress, that when people feel too stressed, they have a tendency to hold their breath instead of breathing in and out.
Mhm.
So if you find yourself holding your breath, if you become aware of it, now you're in charge of it. So everything is your own awareness, and just being aware so that you can take charge. And that's really, nothing can stop you if you take charge of everything. The same thing with anxiety. You have to rule it. If it rules you, that's where the problem comes in.
Mhm.
And, I had a wise doctor when I was about 20 years old, and I was getting panic attacks. And he said, I could send you for therapy, or I could give you my own. He said, my own is, he said, you have to take charge of it. I'm having a panic attack. I know nothing's going to happen to me, and write it out. He
Right.
said, it's going to be tough in the beginning. And I tell you, after about a week of writing it out, I never had a panic attack. And if it started, I knew how to stop it.
Right.
By being in charge.
Right. And Teresa, that really kind of circles back to Kathy Boonblack, our hypnotherapist that spoke. The same thing. It's like taking charge of that emotion. And then, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Anybody else have any questions?
Any other comments, questions?
That was
Michelle.
excellent.
I was just gonna say something that you said just resonated with me again. And I know that our world is going through a really difficult time right now, and there were incidents, and I don't mean to say this in disrespect to anyone, but I know that there was awful things that happened with George Floyd, and a lot of the mantra, a lot of what people were chanting was, I can't breathe. And it really hit me hard that here we are in the middle of a pandemic that's obviously affecting people's respiratory system. And you have all of these people on the streets chanting, I can't breathe, in honor of, the loss of his life. But I thought our mind is so powerful. And this is not the time for us not to, for us to have a message of not breathing.
Yeah.
Breath is life. And I wondered, how do you help people that and love with something like that, where you're being respectful of what they're going through with the time and everything, but then also allowing them to know that their words have power,
Yeah.
and that, our mind and every cell in our body interprets that and receives that information that we're saying out loud.
Yeah. You try. And, some days I try to meet people where they're at. And, if they're really afraid, I try to talk to them about courage. I've had, unfortunately, some patients that haven't been out of the house since March 17th at all. And they're deathly afraid. And that becomes a huge problem, because at some point you do have to get on with life. And some people you could talk to, I try to tell them about, that it does take a certain amount of courage, and you really just have to take that first step and just do it in increments. Some people listen. I've had people get mad at me. one day I had a family member start screaming at me when I asked the elderly woman, have you been out for a walk? And she said, no, but I like to go out in my garden. I said, oh, that's a great thing to do, go out in your garden. And the daughter said, you don't give a damn about my mother. You're telling her to go out and get killed by the virus. And, she, and I said, well, let's stop right there. I said, everybody's got their beliefs. I can't tell you what to do, but I'm not dealing with it. I said, you're welcome to leave right now and come back into the office when you want to have a conversation. I said, because I'm not getting into it. And at first she just kind of stared at me. And then she calmed down and she said, you're right. She said, you're absolutely right. She said, I may not agree with what you're saying, and I don't want my mother out of the house, but you have the right to say it. And that's how I approach people. I tell them they have the right to believe what they want to believe.
Mm.
I think this is the most difficult thing because there's so many divisions and people, it's like people believe different things and, they don't understand that maybe other people don't believe that, or, maybe they have a different view of it, or maybe they don't even realize that maybe they're just scaring you. When I went to my home in Alabama, I work in New Jersey, and I went to Alabama to get a haircut, get everything done a few weeks ago, and I had a friend of mine text me 3 times. And right in a row, she kept texting me, do I know that that the numbers are going up, that they're spiking, that Alabama shouldn't have opened this early, North Carolina shouldn't have. And I wrote, I texted her back. I said, right now I'm more concerned about violence. I said, and, there are some protests being planned, and that scares me more than anything. I said, so don't talk to me about anything else. I said, at this point, I really don't give a damn what the numbers are. I said, just leave me alone. And I haven't heard from her since. But she felt it was her right. And, I just didn't want to hear it. It wasn't important to me at the time. So, we try to be respectful of each other. I think it's very difficult. I think it's very, very difficult. And I don't know about anybody else, but some days I just feel like I don't even fit into the world anymore. I feel like maybe I'd be better off on Mars or something.
No, I had a situation where I was just feeling so low and down, and it sounds so ridiculous, but even just going to have my hair done and having somebody like touch my head, like we've gotten so far away from human touch that it's like we need a little bit of that for healing too. And so all of the separation and anxiety, I think, just builds the stress, and you don't have as much of an outlet for it right now because of everything that's going on.
Yeah, it's very tough because the things that we're used to, and we're made to be social human beings, and even pets. I mean, you look at animals. Animals interact with other animals. They interact with humans, and that's kind of life. You see tigers playing. You see lions playing. They may not play with us, but I mean, they've got their own thing. You've got pets. I mean, dogs and cats and hamsters, they love to be cuddled. When was the last time a dog ever really shied away, or a cat? They love to be traumatized. But, we're meant for certain things. And when all that then gets taken away, it becomes very difficult. And I understand what you're saying because, to me, even getting a manicure was a couple weeks ago. That was the most important thing I did. I just needed to have it done to feel good. And, I joke around, I say I traveled 860 miles to get a manicure, pedicure, wax, a haircut, and see the eye doctor. But
Wow.
A girl's got to do what a girl's got to do.
She's my kind of girl.
Right. Teresa, awesome. Well, girl, I do want to give, we don't want to go over because we always are so respectful of everybody's time. Teresa, this has been fabulous, but I do know.
Liz, can I say one quick comment?
Yes, please.
We'll get this to the group, but Teresa does some fabulous Facebook Lives on these kinds of things, and we'll get how to find her. So
Please do.
No charge, right?
Yeah.
But she goes into depth on these topics, and I really enjoy them. So
Yeah, wonderful.
Excellent. Yes.
Good. Okay, so Deb, I think, don't we have, okay, first of all, because we're going to circle back a little bit to like the stress factor. And I know for me, I'm going to talk a bit about my experience with our Modexus Lonicera Tranquility. And I was on the beta team that started for the two months when it was called Product X. And what I loved about the company is that they waited until they got the feedback from the field on this product for helping. I specifically started using it because of the sleep factor, because it's for anxiety, sleep, and blood pressure. My blood pressure is fine. But anyway, I'm thrilled because the company has embraced it as a product. It's now called Lonicera Tranquility. And I think in these times of stress, I'm grateful because I get a complete, wonderful, sound night's sleep. I'm excited to start doing actually, Adrian and I have started, we're going to do a product sampling study, asking people that if they're having sleep issues. So I'm excited about that. But I know that Deb, Monica has a testimonial too from one of our products as well, right?
Yeah, actually, yeah, we're really excited to hear from Monica. And it all kind of ties in with what Teresa was saying, because, you know, if our body is given the proper nutrients and tools, I truly believe it can help itself heal. And the combination of Modexus and a lot of the things that Teresa was saying is just that perfect balance to help us to, you know, restore our health, and optimize it. So I know that Monica, you have a testimonial that's really interesting because you were off the product for a little while, and so we'd love to hear you and what your experience was.
Well, that was exactly it. I actually learned how powerful it was by accidentally running out of it, which was amazing because I suffer from autoimmune diseases. I have MS, as you all know, and fibromyalgia, a lot of things that affect me, and stress, lack of sleep, all of these things. So I started taking this several months ago, and after talking with Deb and my sister and everything else, my idea was to stair step it up. So I want to get up to 4 a day. So in the process of doing this, I had gotten to 3, but inadvertently did not even check to see if I had another bottle on hand. So suddenly I realized it's going to be gone. So I quickly tried to go down to 1, and even then it wasn't enough. And in a shortest amount of time, which is exactly 3 days, I just kept feeling like something is so off. I did not have the quality of sleep I'd had before. I definitely did not have the energy. And most importantly, I did not have this overall sense of well-being. Now, for me to notice this with all the other things I have going on my body is really a testament, I think, to the true power of this product. So I'm frantically searching for the shipping. See, when is this coming? When is this coming? Because I know for a fact I never, ever want to be without this wonderful, powerful product ever again.
And this was longevity, right, Monica?
Yes, this was longevity. I'm sorry if I didn't say that. This is longevity. And as of today, I just started 4. And I checked, I do have another bottle. So I'm going to be dangerous soon, you guys.
awesome.
Oh,
That's
that's so
wonderful.
awesome.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
That's a good
Yeah,
one.
it really was. I was really amazed because with everything that I have, you do notice the difference in your body. I keep track of it every day. I write down the different things. I almost journal the things that I'm feeling, because it helps me know what's helping and what's not. And what I'm doing, I believe in the holistic part, but I also have to do other medication with it. So this was, to me, such a shock that I immediately be able to pinpoint, yes, it's that's the thing. Oh my gosh, do I need that? What a difference that had made. And in just 3 days, you would think, wow, maybe a longer period of time or whatever. No, this was pretty much instant.
Yeah.
That's
So
excellent. And you know, one other thing I wanted to point out too is with everything that Teresa was saying about, you know, meditation, you know, how do you shut your brain off, right? How do you get into that meditative state? One of the things I love about the lift and the tranquility is I think it really has helped me to be able to focus, to be able to have that mental clarity that I need, and to be able to relax my brain. And I'm able to meditate so much easier since I've been on those products. So I thought that was very interesting as well.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. Lisa, I just want to say this because you guys know me, I'm always running on ready, right? But what I have found for me to meditate, well, first of all the time when I was riding horses, my meditation was most of the time when I was out on an endurance horse, because you're by yourself, but that isn't really quieting your mind. But now one thing I can do sometimes is I'll just sit and like look at maybe a painting in my house and just let your brain kind of make something up that's in that painting for a few minutes, and just let yourself go to another place and just quiets your mind. Or lie outside if there's beautiful clouds. I mean, my girlfriend and I in high school used to say, they don't make clouds like they used to back when we were a kid. You would make up cloud pictures, and that you would just let your mind kind of go there. Doesn't that make sense, Teresa? A little bit. It's just mainly letting your brain turn off. I love when Teresa said, if you do have that list coming in, just ignore it. Don't give it the power. Just try to just be still and not overthink it, and just relax. Because I understand exactly what you asked, Teresa, because I'm thinking, oh, well, geez, I'm kind of ready to go and all this, but it's just letting your brain and mind, whatever works for you, that you can like focus and just be. Yeah.
I think it's our culture in general doesn't really know how to be still. I don't think we come from that. I used to travel a lot. I was in the manufacturing and selling of women's apparel for many, many years, close to almost 20 years. And I traveled internationally, and I noticed immediately we'd go to Europe, like in Italy and places like that. And they just took their day as it came. They would have late dinners and wine, and we're thinking, how are they getting it? And they're like telling us, calm down, it'll all get done. And it all did get done. I thought, wow. They came back every time and said, we're doing something wrong. We need to do some of that.
Right. Well, ladies, this has been great. It is now just at 9 o'clock, top of the hour. And I am going to just tell you that we're going into a summer schedule of every other week, but every other week now will be July 5th. So our next Knowledge is Power will be July 13th, which will be the Monday after that. And I'll obviously keep everybody posted, but we've got a couple different ideas or guest speakers lined up. One is a gal from Australia that might be joining us. And so we're really looking forward to continuing this. And we will be like on an every other week schedule through the summer, because we know people are going to get busy and have other extracurricular activities going on. But we're really loving having all of you here. And any closing comments, Deb or Adrian? No?
I want to thank Teresa very much. This was really enlightening and helpful.
Great.
Mhm.
Thank you so much, Teresa. It was great to see everybody. Mary, and then my girlfriend Barb, she's on her phone incognito. She popped in, and Patty, April, all of you, this has been wonderful, and wish you all a great week ahead. Practice what Teresa taught us. Let's do a little meditation, and remember, we are in charge of our own health. Okay, everybody. See you next time.
Good night. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night.